Mark Madnick. Hey, you just all of a sudden you just filled the screen. Man, you look
Oh,
great today. Look at you.
sometimes I try to look like a lawyer
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
as
I
best I
don't
can.
know. In LA, is it a little bit different, do you think, than other places where you can probably be a little bit more edgy, or if you're around here, or because you don't seem like a stuffy guy at all. You seem like a guy that's just you are who you are, and it is
Yeah,
what it is.
I think that's right. I think we mostly I wear a suit if I have to go into court or
Sure.
maybe into a deposition. But post COVID, just about everything is done from right here, so
Hmm.
just be pretty casual unless I need to put on a tie.
Yeah, I did some expert witness work recently, and when we're talking, they said, "Okay, you're going to be deposed," and I'm thinking like, "Shit, I don't even I'm not even the one that they're after," and being deposed by some great litigator, it's like I'll confess to anything,
Yeah.
and so. But then they say wear a like a suit or a jacket, and I'm thinking like, "Oh my gosh, I want to be sweating." They're gonna see sweat coming down here. I'm gonna look so guilty, like I don't even know what I'm talking about. So I maybe gave you a little bit too much there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So Mark, what's interesting is because I know that you're a great real estate and business attorney, but I was looking at your profile again, and it was interesting because it's part of your profile talks about the healthcare industry too. So, would you mind just taking a moment because to talk about what you do that your sweet spot? But if there's other things you do, maybe just give us a taste of that too.
Sure. Yeah. So the thing you picked up on is I spent a couple of years after working in big law firms. I went in-house to work
Mm-hmm.
for a national healthcare company.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really cool opportunity. It's rare that a litigator gets an in-house position.
Right.
So um, what was really great about it is I was the client. And for that healthcare company, which grew from, I think, 5,000 employees when I started there to 10,000 employees when I left, I
Wow.
managed every aspect of their litigation. So I
Mm-hmm.
handled employment matters, I handled business litigation, I handled work comp, professional
Mm-hmm.
liability, any litigation that they did. And I learned the healthcare business, which is a
Mm-hmm.
very unique business. And so that's part of my practice is business litigation for healthcare providers.
Mm-hmm.
I primarily tell people I do business litigation with an emphasis on real estate, and then I also do business litigation for healthcare providers.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really important is from that experience, I've been the client, and I feel like I bring that. There's things that I think a lot of litigators don't know about client expectations, sort
Right.
of communication, budgeting, time, right?
Mm-hmm.
How busy people are in their everyday life, in their business life, and they don't want to be involved in litigation. So I bring that and try to make it easier on my clients because of that.
Oh, that's great. And how many years did you do that?
I was there for 3 years.
Okay, gosh, what an experience. That would, I mean, especially they have covering that whole gamut. That's got to be, was it exciting for you?
It was a very steep learning curve,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of my boss described it as death by a thousand cuts. You just never knew what was going to happen on any given day. You might, the phone rings and there's some issue that you immediately have to deal with. While I was working there, one of our hospitals caught fire,
Uh-huh.
and like, all right, now I have to scramble. Whatever I had planned for that day, I have to scramble and go, deal with this from the lawyer standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe there's an HR issue. You get a phone call that somebody showed up to work and they were under the influence. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what did you do?
Wait, is that a problem? That's not good?
We we sent him over to the other hospital to go get drug tested. Like, wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
are you telling me that you just instructed somebody under the influence to go drive to another hospital? Yeah, it was good times.
Very good. So if you had to choose, let's say one that you feel the most passionate about, which way would you lean?
As far as my practice areas,
Yeah, uh-huh.
so it's real estate for sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's my primary experience during those 10 years that I worked in large law firms. The majority of what I was doing was real estate related, working with developers, investors, lenders, property owners, and handling all of their disputes.
That's great. And then you also deal with evictions and that type of thing as well, right? That's something that you lean into a little bit.
I do, yeah. I've done, I say of all the trials I've done, the majority of them have been landlord-tenant matters that go to trial.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to do commercial. The residential stuff is just really complicated and honestly inefficient. But commercial litigation, it's a business. I mean, commercial unlawful detainers, it's a business litigation case. It just happens to move on a very quick timeline.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, it used to be people would call me because I have some of my own units. They would call and they'd say they have questions about how to deal with this tenant or that tenant, what to do. And I'm like, you don't want me to. I'm not your guy. I'm not your. You have to talk to an attorney. And even when we were talking about at one point evicting someone, I thought, okay, I'll just follow this protocol, blah blah blah. And then this was years ago, and I called the attorney and said, so what do you think about? I'm going to do this. And he goes, oh, geez. He's like, what are you doing, Scott? Just let me handle this for you. And I'm going, and I realized that I totally would have lost months and money. And there would have been so much stress just by not just handing it over to someone like you.
Yeah. The rules when it comes to terminating someone's tenancy and evicting them are so archaic.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many traps. And a lot of, if the tenant's going to be represented by an attorney, or there's many organizations out there that provide help to tenants. If you miss one of the steps, you may go all the way through litigation, all the way through trial, and you may lose. And you're going to lose all that time and all that money. So, yeah, I always say consult with a lawyer at the beginning. Do it right. Don't do self-help.
Mm-hmm. No LegalZoom?
Don't go in there and just hire a locksmith and change the locks.
Mm-hmm.
Don't cut off the electricity. Do it right.
Even if your wife tells you to?
Especially, yeah.
I had one time a guy, my buddy, who's like 6'4", looks like a pro wrestler, and he goes, "Well, I'll just go over there and I'll talk to him." I said, "No, that's the last thing we're going to do is send you over to intimidate him." And what worked for me was just having really solid, honest conversation. And because I managed 50 units at one point, and this one guy was saying, this is wrong because of this and this, because they were just staying up late, not doing anything crazy, but it was keeping up the neighbors and it's not parties, just playing music and doing stuff. And there came a point when I just went up there. They said they were going to bring in their attorney. And I said, look, you can do it that way. You can do it that way. But then I'm going to hand you off to someone else who's going to want to fight with you. I'm telling you right now, as of now, you're not a bad guy. It's not a good fit for you. So what you should do is I'll give you a good referral, but go and get a house. Go get something where don't have people on either side. And then let's shake hands at the end of this. And at the end of it, it was interesting. No more attorney talk. And that's what he did. And when they left, there was no hard feelings because it was like, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. I don't want to do this hard. Why would we do that? So.
Yeah. Look, you've probably heard me give the line before, but I try to say that we get business solutions to legal problems. So I can explain to you the process from A to Z on how to go through an eviction, how to send your 3-day notice, or if you're dealing with residential evictions in LA, what a nightmare that is, and how long it's going to take. Maybe you're going to do an owner move-in and you're going to go through several months and you're going to pay a relocation fee. I just actually for a client who was in that situation, had the opportunity to probably do an owner move-in. It's going to take at least 6 months to do it, and they're going to pay a relocation fee at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we approached the tenants, and to your point, Scott, it's incredible what you can accomplish when you treat people with dignity, right? So while I may not have gotten an eviction case out of it, by approaching the tenant, treating them respectfully, offering them money that they would have received in 6 months, but offering it to them now,
right,
and letting them move out on their terms, they agreed.
I love it.
It's a hard conversation sometimes to have with the client because they don't want to pay anything. But when you explain you're going to have to pay something.
You're going to pay. This probate we did recently, there was this guy that had been living there for like 20 years. And nice guy, but very, very, not really sophisticated. And we were talking to him about, okay, look, the house is being sold. I represented the buy side. The house is being sold, so you really do need to do this. And we were trying to talk, and I don't know. It doesn't make sense, and all this. And I've been here for this long. I said, let's stop for a second. What is it that you want right now? What is it you're worried about? Is it because you're paying low rent for a long time? It's going to be hard to find a place. Can I help you? And at the end of it, he goes, well, you guys are saying get out by Friday, but I can't be out until Sunday. That was what was weighing on him. And I said, why don't you just get out end of day Monday and leave anything you want to leave behind, any garbage, anything, because we're going to be coming in with a dumpster anyway. Does that help you? He goes, he practically fell into tears over it because he was like being heard finally.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, look, that's the approach I try to take with a lot of my matters. Is exactly. People want to be heard. Sometimes it takes a longer time. Call it litigation therapy. But
litigation therapy.
But eventually you figure out what is the thing that either your client or the party that you're against, what is it that they're trying to accomplish? Maybe that is going to trial, right? Maybe they want to have the opportunity to have a judge or a jury hear their case and give them some sense of justice. That's going to take a long time. It's going to cost a lot of money. We're always happy to do it. But somewhere along the way, you figure out what is that thing that,
right.
Move out on Monday and try to see if you can use that as your off-ramp and try to get the dispute resolved. That's what makes for happy clients.
Absolutely. And then if you need to take off the gloves, you take them off, and it's a very different story. But when you're forced to take off your gloves, then you have to take off your gloves. But generally, it's so nice when you don't have to.
So I follow both tracks. I follow an aggressive, zealous approach in court, but my phone's always available for anybody who wants to, talk to us and see if we can find opportunities to resolve a case. And that may happen multiple times over the course. Sometimes it doesn't. I had a case we took to trial in October, and we went to a settlement conference. This was a commercial eviction. And after 3 times of getting sent downtown to the unlawful detainer hub, we finally got sent out to a courtroom, and we did a settlement conference. And we offered a substantial amount of money to try to get the tenant out and resolve it, and he didn't want it. He wanted, hundreds of thousands of dollars. All right, fine. Then we're going to go to trial. So it ended up taking 10 days. I've never seen people move so fast as when the jury came back with their verdict and they wanted to. But that's fine. We'll have both of those conversations, and we'll proceed to trial if we need to. And and if I don't think that we're going to get the result that the client wants, I'll tell them. So we always got to manage expectations.
Right. Geez, I like you more now than I've ever liked you. We should have done this ages ago. All right, so you're already giving me a lot of interesting stuff, but I'm sure you've got a couple of nice real estate health stories that you can share.
Yeah, sure. I've got a couple. So we just resolved a case. It was about a week before it was going to go to trial. My client, he's an elderly gentleman, and he owned some properties with his sister-in-law, and he bought her out. 3 properties, he bought her out, and she signed the deeds. And before he could go record them, she had second thoughts. So she signed new deeds, transferring her interest to her husband. So I don't know if you know this, but when it comes to deeds, the signing of the deed is what transfers the interest in the property.
So it's not the recording?
It's not the recording. The recording is all about notice. So, and that's what title insurance, will protect you from if there's unrecorded deeds. But obviously, you want to record your deeds because you want to put people on notice of your interest in the property. Mm-hmm. So, but before he could record it, she transferred it. She recorded her deeds, her fake deeds, that she transferred to her husband. So we tried to negotiate for a long time, but she, had seller's remorse. She wanted more money. She decided that the properties were worth more than she sold it. So we had to file suit. We filed for quiet title and the cloud on title. And one of the nice things, if someone clouds your title, you're allowed to recover attorney's fees.
Wow, I'm learning all sorts of stuff right now.
Yeah. So, and my client was an elderly gentleman. So we went in and we brought a motion for preference. A lot of times cases, especially now after COVID, we're getting trial dates 18 months to 2 years, maybe even longer from when you file the suit. But if you can get preference, you can get it on an expedited time frame. So we got a trial date that was within 6 months of us filing the lawsuit. And so we went in, multiple settlement conferences, and they were, the sister-in-law was adamant that she was not going to come to the table, not going to negotiate. But finally, we were able to do a breakthrough, got her to sign the deeds, got the property back to my client, and also got them to pay for not all, but almost all of the attorney's fees. So
nice. So when you say you get preference, what kind of criteria is it to get preference? Because wouldn't everyone do that?
So if you're elderly and infirmed, those are usually the conditions for it.
Makes sense.
When you've got someone who they file a suit and they may not make it to the trial date in a couple of years, the court has a process for expediting those trials to make sure that they have their day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to figure out. I don't know if you noticed, but when we're doing this, I write down titles and stuff. And when you brought up deeds, of course, I think dirty deeds done dirt cheap. Little AC/DC. Litigation therapy. That's just beautiful. That just rings. You're just like provide all sorts of material by just being you.
Yeah. I've been doing this for a minute,
Yeah. Well, tell us another story.
So, let's see. I have, I've done a lot of landlord-tenant ones, but another one that was a real estate hell was I have a client that's in the home staging business. Mm-hmm. They do a lot of high-end home staging, and they staged a home, and the developer sold the home with the staging furniture inside.
Explain that to me. How does that work?
They signed the contract, they signed the purchase and sale agreement, and it included in it furnished. And they didn't pay my client for the staging furniture that was included. What was really amazing about this was the sale, the whole transaction was on TV. It was on $1 Million Listing.
Really?
Yeah. So I had to do a little research to figure out how to subpoena the original videotapes from the negotiation. So we got that.
So was it like because I've been in a deal before where they try to sneak something in, but because normally you don't want to mess with the contracts, you just put everything where it belongs, you keep it nice and tidy so that everyone read it. But I had one person once write in, and it looked just like type, so you wouldn't even notice that the grand piano, which is worth like $30,000-$40,000, was included. And I sent it to my client, and they said, "We're not providing this." And I said, "Of course not." And I looked at it and I said, "That mother." They snuck it in. If someone tries to sneak it in, I mean, is that how it happened with this being furnished? I mean, how did it get past everybody to even get that far?
They did it intentionally, but my client, who was just the stager, wasn't party to the transaction, so he had no idea. He didn't learn until a month later when he actually what ended up happening was the buyer wasn't happy with the staging furniture, and then had to reach out to him to try to exchange some of it. But he had no idea that the home sold. And And it wasn't until, again, a month later that he actually found out that the home sold with his furniture inside that the seller didn't pay him for. So we went through litigation on that
Mm-hmm.
a long
But
time.
what case do they have? You can't just give away someone's stuff. I mean, I don't. It just seems, wouldn't there be, what do they call it? Summary judgment, when you go like, look, judge.
So here's the interesting thing. And I know you do. I've seen some of your presentations on home staging, and I think you do some of it yourself. So this particular contract, my client has that if you uh, convert the furniture or do anything that's a non-staging purpose, if you use it for, film or TV or something, we had one with this client where it was in a music video, uh, then it triggers a higher rate for the rental for the furniture.
Okay.
So in this case, not only had the seller not paid the staging fees, but then he sold the furniture. So we took the position that it converted it to a non-staging use because now the furniture was lived on for a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's either a 3 or 4 times monthly rental rate if that happens.
Uh-huh.
So it became an expensive case.
All right. I like these stories. Do you have one more for us?
We got, let's see, what else? And you're going to edit this, right? I'm getting.
Well, just don't use any
light.
names that could bounce back at you. That's all.
Better?
I've just gotten used to it. I thought you were going for that dramatic effect.
I'm not. Let's see if that makes this any better. Yes, much better. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's good.
So let me tell you about. Let's see. One of the first cases that I had. It was a commercial eviction case, and so it's really important. Leases. A lot of people just use form leases.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they find something on the internet, or if maybe they actually speak to somebody and get a good lease. But leases are contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's 2 purposes of a lease. One is it gives people, a right to access property exclusively, but it's also a contract. So it's important up front that you make sure that the language in your lease, makes sense. So one of the first cases that I had that we took to trial was a commercial eviction case, and it was a nightclub on Hollywood and Vine, and I represented a developer that bought the whole block. They were going to develop something there. There was a provision in the lease that was somewhat ambiguous, but our interpretation of it was that after 2 years of the tenant being there, the lease could be terminated on 180 days notice. We represented the developer who bought the property at 2 years later, gave the 180 days notice, and wanted to evict this nightclub so they could develop the property. The tenant took the position that it was actually the opposite, that the lease could only be terminated within the first 2 years. But what was great was we filed our eviction, and we served the tenant with it. And the next day, I wake up, turn on the news, and wouldn't you know it, the nightclub burned down.
And why am I laughing? It's just the timing of it.
The timing of it was certainly interesting, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, I had to go sit in on a deposition of an insurance agent who sold the insurance policy to the tenant, and I don't know what ended up happening with that.
And it just happened to bind the night before?
It just happened, yeah, exactly. They had just taken out a new insurance policy, and the nightclub burned down the day after we served them with the eviction. We ended up actually taking that all the way through a trial. They fought it every step of the way, and they wanted to get a jury trial, and one of the interesting things is judges interpret contracts. They don't need a jury to interpret a contract.
Right.
So our judge said, you don't need a jury. I'm the judge. I'll interpret the contract.
Mm-hmm.
The lease terminated. You need to get out.
I feel like, I'm not going to mention, I feel like I remember that. How long ago was this?
That was probably 2007 or 8.
Okay. There's something in my mind that's coming into it. I won't say anything. Do you have a charity or a cause that is dear to your heart that you want to shine a little bit light on?
Sure. So one of the things that I do in my spare time, although it often takes up sometimes even more time than my real job, is I'm the president of the Foundation for Las Virginas Schools.
Okay.
I'm a graduate of Las Virginas Schools, as is my wife, and we're really fortunate to be able to send our kids to school there. And I joined the board, that was 2016 or 2017, because one of the things that our foundation does is we raise funds to help pay for mental health counselors at the schools.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's my belief that, having sufficient mental health counselors makes for safer schools, helps with kids' anxiety, and if they have, they don't want to go to school. So I want to make sure that all the kids that are in the schools, have enough mental health support. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I joined the board, and, we throw some great events, try to build community, but also try to raise funds to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
we got, enough mental health support, also try to reduce class sizes and provide for, specialists for visual and performing arts in elementary schools. So
that sounds great. See, now I like you even more. See, this side, because I haven't had the opportunity to really just talk to you much. So this is really nice. It's been great. That foundation is called Foundation for Las Virginas Schools.
It's called the THE, which stands for Together Helping Education, Foundation for Las Virginas Schools. And
Okay.
I've been fortunate to be the president of the foundation for 4 years, and was the vice president before that.
Wonderful. Gosh, it's amazing in 25 minutes how much you gave me so much to work with. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth, just to get a decent story. But even before you told the story, I was already ready to rock. So.
All right, good.
Yes.
So hopefully I didn't drone on too much.
Not at all.
Sometimes
no, it was the opposite. You got
from
some
my
things
family from telling my stories.
Not one drone. I know drones.